Thanks for covering for me.
Didn't do it for you. Just didn't want a cop all up in my business.
Huh. Like father, like son.
Hey guys, welcome back to the channel and thank you so much for clicking on today's video. Today we are talking about Dexter New Blood and we're going over the second episode in obviously the first and only season. So let's get right into everything. If you haven't seen the episode, obviously there's going to be spoilers and I will be sharing as many clips as possible in this review reaction breakdown.
So why all this Jim bullshit? What happened to Dexter Morgan?
He killed dozens of people, got your mother and your aunt killed too.
So we finally got some answers in this episode as to what has happened over the last 10 years of Harrison's life.
Opening up that letter, finding out you let me believe you were dead all those years, that was brutal.
Hannah showed you the letter?
No, I found it when she died.
Hannah died?
Where he's been and what happened to Hannah. So at the beginning, straight away, like, it's Dexter and Harrison, and rightfully so, Harrison's like, you're not dead. So what happened?
So, you're not dead.
He's owed an explanation.
So Harrison and Dexter have this conversation where Harrison talks about this letter that he found that Dexter had wrote to Hannah from Oregon, which is where we obviously saw Dexter at the end of the original series, where he was the lumberjack. And Harrison says that he found this letter when Hannah died, and obviously Dexter didn't know that. And he says that Hannah passed away about 3 years ago from pancreatic cancer, and that after that he was put on a plane from Buenos Aires and landed in Miami. And over the course of the last 3 years, because he knew Dexter wasn't dead, he was looking for him.
A social worker put me on a plane from Buenos Aires to Miami. I bounced around a bunch of shitty foster homes. No one wants a teenager. Finally, I decided to find you.
Used the postmark from Oregon, went to that town, realized he'd gone, and tried to find Jim Lindsay, who obviously it's a very common name. And Harrison eventually found Dexter through a bowling Instagram picture that the owner of the store Dexter works in, Fred, had put on Instagram.
And I found a shot of you on Instagram. Pictures don't lie. Some Fred guy and some bowling team bragging on you bowling a 300 right here in Iron Lake.
And when they mentioned the bowling thing, and then when Harrison is walking around Dexter's cabin at the beginning.
Yeah, we got second place at the Harvest Fest tournament last year.
Cool.
I kind of was thinking about in the first series of the original, where Dexter, Rita, Deb, and Rudy, the eye stroke killer, go to Dexter's biological dad's, and how his dad had set up this separate life where he was kind of isolated and his son was there. His son had been told he died, and really his parent knew that he was still alive, which is just like such a parallel with Hannah knowing Dexter was still alive, Hannah not being Harrison's biological parent, but the person who's raising him, and in the sense, you know, what Harry was doing. And I feel as though like the thing that Dexter we eventually find was in the letter about the dark tendencies. That was kind of how Harry knew that if anything really went down, like whenever Dexter needed the blood transfusion, that he could go to Dexter's biological dad because he knew he was there. But I mean, maybe that wasn't intentional. It just made me think with the bowling picture and things like that I thought it was kind of an interesting comparison. So over the course of the rest of the episode, we do get these little snippets about Harrison. Like,
if you want, you can just hang inside the cabin until I get back. I know how hard it can be meeting new people. It was hard for me in high school too.
Yeah, I survived the last 10 years without you, Jim. I think I can go 2 more hours.
He talks about how Hannah and he had goats and chickens in Argentina, and when he's with a bunch of the kids from the town, he talks about having an addiction that he's got clean from, and that's why he doesn't want to smoke with them. So, I mean, there's a lot of people saying, like, is this true, or do you think like he's lying? I just don't see any reason as to why he would in that situation. I mean, that's quite a heavy thing to say to people, especially people that you've met 5 minutes ago. So I do think that maybe there's a bit more to it, and just everything that we learned in this episode, like finally what happened to Hannah, like where Harrison has been. There's just so many questions. I mean, I know this was a quite heavy Harrison episode, but I just want to know so much more, and what has it been like from him the past 3 years, and what else has he done to try and find Dexter? Like, he talks about how he went from Buenos Aires to Miami. Did he reach out to anyone in Miami?
Technically, I wasn't actually a cop.
Well, Mom said you were a cop. You had to be better than these guys.
Maybe. It's got to be too much. I'm happier now.
If they did some, flashbacks to Harrison being in Miami, we could maybe see him going and speaking to Angel at his restaurant, or going and talking to Masuka or anybody else. And although, like, obviously Rita passed away, Deb passed away, what about Cody and Aster? Like, they're both adults now, so they're probably still in Florida, or at least they're traceable. I'm sure they're still using their real names, and like social media and everything. It's so different now trying to find someone. I mean, obviously it's a lot more difficult when someone changes their names, and I doubt Dexter has social media. So I really wonder if there's going to be anything down the line where we see Harrison, like in the past, going to some of the previous characters on the show. The mentioning of social media, and then there's also this scene where they are using a drone to, well, they don't really get to use it. They say they're going to use a drone, and it swiftly crashes.
Built-in mapping software? No.
And we see Harrison be pretty interested in the drone. And as I said, along with like all the social media references, it did make me think just how different this world that Dexter will be operating in now, trying to stay a couple of steps ahead of the police, because it's been 10 years since he's worked in Miami and working in obviously his lab and stuff. So it's a very different world, because social media was really only getting started. Yeah, we had Facebook and stuff like that, but it was really in its infancy, and it's just such a different beast now. So, like exactly, Dexter got found basically through a slip with Instagram, and you have drones and all these other things where technology has so advanced over the last decade that he's been dormant. And it will be interesting to see Dexter coming up against more of these technological advancements. Some other things that were mentioned in this episode that I think will be pretty significant down the road is that we had obviously Dexter's girlfriend Angela, the police chief, talking about the fact that her daughter isn't actually her biological daughter, and we have the mention of her daughter Iris, who we're assuming went missing, or there was something serious that happened, because we have a couple of people mention Iris in this episode, one being Audrey, her daughter, saying she's not Iris, and she's kind of bearing the brunt of her mother's protectiveness, because obviously she's lost in some way a child previously.
I didn't know where you were. It's dangerous out there. You have no idea.
No, stop. I've heard it all before. How many times do I have to tell you? I'm not Iris.
And we also have the mention of the Seneca people and their land, and they also allude to missing girls that have gone from their land and how they've been basically ignored. And Angela says, you know, things are different now. So I'm sure this means when Angela has been put in as the chief of police, as opposed to what was going on prior to her appointment. We do also have the subplot for the girl in the previous episode that Angela helped in the bar and gave money to and mentioned if she wanted to go to a shelter. We see that this girl has actually ended up in some sort of hotel, motel, and over the course of the episode, we check back in with her multiple times. And over the course of these check-ins, we see that someone is watching her through a camera in the ceiling, and the girl goes through the course of this drinking champagne, she gets sick, and then the door and the lock is removed from the actual door, so she can't get out. And then that's when she discovers the camera. We do see some quick flashes of the person watching. It seems to be an older male. I mean, I really think that it's Kurt Caldwell. I think the eye looks like the actors. I mean, they could be doing that to kind of throw you off, but that's who I think it is, because also he was missing throughout the episode, and they kind of say, oh, we've been trying to get hold of you, because obviously his son is missing. But I think then that might be like too easy if it's him, because that was pretty obvious he was missing throughout the episode. So at the end of the episode, we kind of see Dexter's plan come together, and he's led the police to believe that Matt has skipped town over his shooting of the buck and that he was going to be fined for poaching. And just as everybody's packing up to leave and Dexter is very pleased with himself about, you know, his plan working, Kurt Caldwell turns up and basically gives a little rallying speech and asks them to continue the search, which they do.
This is Iron Lake. We look out for each other. So please, I'm begging you, do not give up on my son now.
And we see that Dexter is actually hiding the body under the fire pit where the search is being conducted from. Then our final scene is Dexter and Harrison in the cabin, and Dexter has set up this little room for Harrison and asks him to stay and saying he'll get him set up with school. And Dexter and Harrison have this conversation about the letter, and Harrison takes it out of his bag and shows it to him. And Dexter has said, like we talked about before, that Hannah should reach out to him if Harrison shows any dark tendencies.
Reach out to me if Harrison shows any dark tendencies. Dark tendencies? What does that mean?
And obviously Harrison has been like mentally carrying this around, and physically, that he has something in him, and that's why Dexter left.
I was scared that I'd mess you up, that I'd pass that on, so I went away. Because of what I am, not because of who you are.
And Dexter tells Harrison that's obviously not the case. It was him, Dexter, he was scared of, and that leaving Harrison was the hardest thing he ever did.
In Argentina, with Hannah, she was always so good with you. Walking away from you is the hardest thing I've ever done. And I regret it so much now because I never imagined you'd be left alone.
So that was the end of the episode. I really, really enjoyed this episode. I liked getting to know more about what has gone on over all this time, where Harrison has been. I have so many more questions about everything, like how much does Harrison know about Rita and everything. Obviously, I'm assuming like it's Googleable and he would know at least all about Trinity and everything.
What are you two talking about?
Mom, as she passed away.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Then, of course, when that happened, I came up here to be with Jim.
And I want to know, like, what has really gone on in the 3 years. Like, we got kind of a quick synopsis of him trying to find Dexter, but really, like, what was he doing when he was in Miami? Like, did he reach out to anyone? Astor and Cody, all these other things that I would just really love to know. And I hope that we find out in some way over the course of the next few episodes. And I do think that would be a cool way to bring some cameo appearances from the original show into Dexter New Blood. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section. I'd love to know what you think about the whole story with Harrison, and also what you think of them killing off Hannah. Personally, I wasn't too bothered. I never was super attached to the Hannah character, and I also understand like why they did that, because Clyde Phillips and people like that character was created after they left, so they don't probably have any really attachment to it either. So I'd be interested to know what all of you guys think, especially because with the first episode, I've really enjoyed both episodes. And I noticed last time on my episode 1 video, most of the comments were saying that they enjoyed it too. But then I saw a lot of the critics saying that they didn't. And I just thought it was really weird too, because a lot of the critics, it seemed to really go over their heads about the lack of kind of Dexter's internal monologue and the voiceover and the music and everything, and they talked about how like the beginning was slow and all this stuff, and I kind of was, I mean, I think that was kind of the point, to show like the contrast, and then to obviously show like the second he killed Matt, it was back, all of it was back. So it was kind of necessary to have that first half, but maybe that's just me. So let me know down in the comment section what you think, and if you're not already subscribed to the channel, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any content coming out on the channel. And if you enjoyed the video, leave a big thumbs up. Thank you so much for watching. You can also follow me over on social media. I have a merch store, a Patreon, and they'll all be linked down in the description box. So as always, make sure to stay safe, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye guys.